Welcome to another video. Let's get straight into it. What are mark schemes? Now, some of you may know already, but let's just look at Google, shall we? So define mark schemes, and as you do that, it gives you a general definition of what a mark scheme is. A plan or guideline used in the marking of school children's or students' written work. So basically, it's a guide of how to mark an exam or a test. And of course, in context to GCSEs and iGCSEs, a mark scheme shows the guide for marking an exam paper, a board paper. Now, what are examiner reports? Well, they're an essential study resource, obviously, and you have to use them alongside the past papers to get to know what the examiners feel about student responses. So, for example, for a particular exam paper, they may feel that students did really well in certain questions and they didn't do really well in other questions, so it's very useful. Now, let's look at exam boards. There are many exam boards, for example, SAT, ACCA, Pearson, Edexcel, and Cambridge Assessment International Education, which is also known as CIE. Obviously, not all of them assess the same thing, not all of them have the same materials, and each of them provide their own mark schemes and examiner reports. They're the ones who prepare them. I studied for Pearson Edexcel at my school, and that's why I will be using mark schemes and examiner reports from them in this video. If I find resources from other exam boards, I'll try to link them down below as well. Now, another thing you might be wondering, how do I get them? How do I get these mark schemes and examiner reports? Well, you get all of them online. They're available wherever you might be. If you have an internet connection, just go ahead and search. For example, as I'm doing right here, Edexcel mark scheme for a particular year, for a particular subject, or the examiner report for a particular year, for a particular subject. Now we come to the main part. Why are they so important? Why are mark schemes and examiner reports so important? So let's deal with mark schemes first. To begin with, mark schemes obviously help you to check your past papers. When you practice a past paper, you obviously need the mark scheme to see how well you've done, what you've got right, what you've got wrong, and to assess your overall performance. So yeah, that's number one point. You can check yourself, grade yourself like a teacher would normally do. Next, you get to know what they want you to write. You understand what it is that the examiners want you to answer, how they want you to answer, what they're expecting from you basically, because you see the type of answers that they write in the mark scheme, and you get an idea from that as to how you should also write your answers when you're practicing past papers. So that's the second point. You get to know how you're supposed to respond to the paper. And the last reason why they're so important is pretty much similar to the second point which I mentioned, and it's that you get to know the pattern of answering questions. So you get to know that some type of questions have to be answered in a particular way, and another type of questions have to be answered in another way. So overall, mark schemes help a lot when you're revising, when you're practicing for your final exam. Now, of course, checking the mark scheme before actually practicing the past paper is not going to help you that much. You should practice the past paper on your own and then check the mark scheme, not disregard the past paper and just go through the mark scheme thinking that it's going to help you by just reading the answers. No, that's not going to help. So, putting that aside, let's go on to the benefits of examiner reports and why they could be useful. The most obvious reason why examiner reports are so valuable for us, for students, is because they're written by the examiner and they're a source of vital insight into what the examiners feel about student responses. So if a student does not do too well in a particular question, and lots of other students don't do well in that same question as well, examiner reports usually have all of this information. So the examiner usually lists what questions they felt students did the best at and those which the students were lacking in. Now, this is the main reason why they're so important. Another reason could be, of course, getting to know some tips about how to write the exam, because examiner reports do generally include tips here and there. So for example, it could say that students who planned out their story did well, but still, you should not write an extensive plan because that's going to waste your time. So you get small tips here and there, and this is the main reason why examiner reports are so important. So those were the reasons why mark schemes and examiner reports are so important. And I hope you found this video useful. Share it with those who might find it useful too.